Is the universe fair?
Is it true that what goes around comes around?
Do you get what you give? Is karma an absolute law?
If that is the case, then why is it that bad things happen to good people?
Stick around because we are going to kick off our series and try, as much as we can, to answer that question.
Let's do it. Hey, we are your hosts, NixMyth.
And Kylie Jo Smith. Doesn't that sound nice? Doesn't that just sound so much better to have
the full voices? I was like, which
better than
part?
just me looking over here at no one.
At the end. So if you don't know what she's talking about, last week I was gone. I was out of town, and my wife soldiered on solo and handled the podcast.
I did.
So
I even had to do the editing by myself.
Big shout out to Kylie Jo. If you're listening, shout out to you.
I'm listening.
Okay,
I'm here. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so before we get into today's episode, which is going to be a good one, so y'all stick around.
It's good.
We just got a couple. We got a couple announcements. First off, pre-order the mixtape EP.
Do it right now.
Pre-order the mix
right now.
Hey, do it
mix right now.
No, but for real though,
yeah.
Go right now. And this moment now. Hasta la pronto.
Click on it. It's on. It's in the bio or the description.
It's in the deal. Look it up.
It's there.
So you're gonna go to iTunes and not Apple Music, because you gotta actually go to iTunes, and you're gonna pre-order the mixtape by Kylie Jo. And when you do so, you are going to get a instant gratification track.
Yeah.
You're gonna get access automatically to So in Love, which is a banger. Like, it goes hard in the paint.
We like it.
So you should definitely check that out. So you need to do that. If you don't have Apple Music, or if you don't do iTunes, the album will actually be released on April 29th.
Coming up this Friday.
So you can get that
a week from now. I just realized that.
A week from when we're recording this.
Yeah,
not
today.
When you're listening. Who knows when you're listening to it?
I don't know what day
you could be listening to this after the 29th. Who knows?
In which case, I'm really sorry. You're confused.
All right. So with that, though.
Yes.
The NixMyth Podcast would like to tell you that we are partnering with Kylie Jo Music. That's what rich people do. They be having S-corps, corporations,
like,
and they be hiring their kids. Nepotism?
Nepotism. It's full-on nepotism.
Straight up.
No shame whatsoever.
Not at all. But we are doing a giveaway. Dead giveaway. A live giveaway, actually. So we're going to be giving away some stuff.
Yes.
What are we giving away?
Yeah. This is my part.
Tell them what they've won.
Favorite. You will get a Kylie Jo Music Surrender Tee. Now, this you may recognize.
Been around.
It's a vintage. It's a classic. Everybody loves it.
Throwback.
Those who still have them, shout out to you. But it is from one of my songs. It's called Save Me. There is an acoustic version of that on the EP that you will want to hear. It's pretty good. I'm just saying. And so you can win that.
We're also going to give away of course,
Be Blessed T-shirt.
You're going to get one of them.
That's how they do it. The sports stuff.
In the sports stuff. That's how you know my wife watches sports.
In the sports stuff.
In the sport,
the stadium,
the sports stuff.
You know, when you're in the stadium. Yeah, you can win one of these.
We're also going to have two winners that are going to win. They're not going to win.
I hope you don't win.
They're going to win some cold hard cash
app.
We're
not going to send you cash.
We're not mailing you cash. That's weird. But we are going to have two winners that are going to win some money, though.
Yeah.
So.
And honestly, think about it this way. You could spend, it's like $5 for the EP. I mean, it's really not that much.
I think it's $3.99 actually.
$3.99. That's even better.
If you get it
less than $5, right? That's how they advertise. It's just less than $5. Less than a cup of coffee these days. Unless you're going to Dunkin'. But it's less than that. And you could win this money. It's going to be a nice amount of money.
It will cover your cost.
And it will cover the cost of that. So you pretty much are getting paid. We're not paying you to buy it. But I'm saying if you win, it's like you're getting paid to order it. And then you have enough money to go buy half a coffee.
So tell them how they enter.
Okay, so here's what you're going to do, okay? You're going to go to iTunes to pre-order. This is only a pre-order giveaway. It will not work if you do it after the 29th, obviously. Don't try to be slick, okay? But so you're going to go and pre-order it on iTunes. We will give you the link. It's going to be in the episode description, and it's also on all of our social media, so you can find it there. You are going to pre-order it, and you are going to follow at Kylie Jo Music on Instagram. Go on Instagram and follow me, and then DM us on any of our social media. DM us a screenshot of your pre-order and the follow. And that enters you in. Now for a bonus entry.
Come on now.
Hear this,
Hear
fam.
it.
Bonus entry, share the song and tag us or Kylie Joe Music in when you share it.
And you'll get a bonus entry. And we're going to do our giveaway on the 29th, the day the album is released. And so you have all the way up until that day to enter. So that's it. I think those are all our announcements.
Yeah. And every time you share and tag, that's a bonus entry.
Yeah. So you can share like 50 times and tag us, and then you'll have 50 entries.
But you got to pre-order first.
Straight up.
Just want to clarify.
Cool. So let's get into it.
Okay.
So y'all, this is such a deep theological topic and philosophical topic that we even stopped while we were writing the prompt and be like, wait, this is too deep. We got to back up. We got to simplify, because this issue of why do bad things happen to good people is so pervasive in our culture, in the world. There's actually even a word for it. Would you like to share?
Yes, because I'm the one that remembered it.
Yes,
I definitely have to say it. I want to say it right. Theodicy.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
You did. It shocked me.
No.
I'm just kidding.
It hit him right here.
I breathed.
It's not to be confused with The Odyssey, which is a really long play, but about gods. It's weird.
Epic poem.
Yes, it's a poem.
So yes, The Odyssey.
Yeah.
And so The Odyssey is the issue of evil, like the problem with pain in this world. Hold on. It's just water in the cup. I promise y'all.
I'm letting you go through it.
It's just water.
Nothing I can do.
Why do bad water drinking experiences happen to good hosts?
Yes.
So this issue has its own word. The problem of pain, the problem of evil, has been written about and talked about and debated. Has led people to the faith and from the faith, because there aren't a lot of solid. First off, there's no clear-cut answer. So if that's what you came for, sorry, stick around. There are some good conversation pieces, but this idea has been driving religious thought for thousands of years.
Yeah, it's not new.
No.
There is nothing new under the sun, including this issue of, really, it's like the question of existence of evil in the world.
Yeah, why is there bad?
Why bad stuff?
Why do people get sick? Why do people get hurt? Why do
people die
Yeah.
in freak accidents or in tragic ways? And I think there are some things that we use to try and satisfy this question. Certainly legalism and causality are like, we always want to know who it is that's to blame.
Yeah.
And I think even in asking the question, there's a lot of us seeking to satisfy ourselves with like, well, if I could just have, a reason and an answer to this question, it would satisfy me a little bit more.
And we're actually going to dive into that whole topic on another episode.
Yeah.
Because we have so many areas we need to cover in this. So let's just jump into this one to kind of get you guys some foundation, because this episode, we're really laying the foundation for the rest of what we're talking about in this series. And so, what's good? What's good with it?
What is good?
Oh,
this is sorry, I said it correctly.
What is good? What's good is correct.
What
too.
is good?
It's just conjunction.
Right, it's true. You're right. But let's look at the definition of the word good or goodness. But good is defined as to be desired or approved of, having the qualities required for a particular role, possessing or displaying moral virtue, giving pleasure or being enjoyable or satisfying, thorough, valid, used in conjunction with the name of God or a related expression like good heavens, goodness gracious.
Great googly moogly.
Righteousness is another way of defining good. Having benefit or advantage to someone or something. Being well. Those are all things that define or are used interchangeably with the word good or goodness.
Which is interesting, because if you think about all of those definitions or all of the parts of that definition, they all are relative. So every single part of that,
good observation,
Pastor. Anything that you discuss goodness in, it has to be related to something else. Good is not good in and of itself. Like just the concept of good, because taking different cultures and different concept or worldviews, different context, good is not always good.
Wow.
And so good has to be relative. Yet we know that there has to be an ultimate good.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we wouldn't even have the concept of it, right?
We wouldn't even question why are bad things happening if we didn't have an idea that there should be good.
Exactly.
Well,
go ahead.
Honestly, like Jesus, knowing that kind of puts a different spin on when Jesus how Jesus responded when people were like, "Hey, good teacher."
Oh,
and
yeah.
he's like,
right?
"Why do you call me good?"
Yeah.
And like, I love reading that story. I love reading that section of his ministry because it's like, how did he say that? There's so many ways he could have said that.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you call me good? Why do you call me good? Why do you call me good? Like, depending on the inflection or the, like, what was he trying to emphasize? How was he trying to say it? But really, if you think about it, like, Jesus being God would have a pretty good understanding of
great even
being good.
Yeah.
Then that kind of like helps us to understand maybe that he was challenging this statement. Like he was challenging the person like with this question, like, and his answer in one of the gospels, he says, no one is good. No, there's not even one, which is crazy because people use that. A lot of historians have used that to say, well, Jesus even admitted he wasn't good or God because of that statement.
Not true.
But
not true.
Yeah, you got to read. You got to really read it in context, because if you don't read it in context, you're going to walk away with a bad understanding of what is good. Okay.
Look at us.
Stick around. Okay. But speaking of which, if you know somebody who needs to hear this, know somebody who you've talked about, like maybe this question's come up or you're like, oh my gosh, like I really feel like this person needs to hear this like Bible basics kind of understanding of what's good.
Yeah.
Go ahead and share it.
Or if you just want to say what's good to somebody, send this episode. What's good?
Send them the soundbite.
Yeah, I mean,
what's saying what's good.
What's good with it? So Jesus said, no one is good. And he was not, for those of you who don't understand that statement, he was referencing the Old Testament. I believe it's a psalm. It says like, no one does good. There's not one, not even one, or it might be in Isaiah. I can't remember, but he's referencing Old Testament. And he's also putting this concept out there for those who are hearing, like only God is good. No human being is good. And so if you're identifying me as good, then what you're saying is you're testifying to my divinity. And so Jesus, and he didn't deny that. And we see that later on when, not the Mount of Transfiguration, we just celebrated Palm Sunday. Thank you.
You got it.
Yeah, I'm on it. So on Palm Sunday, when people were praising him and worshiping him openly, the Pharisees and Sadducees were like, you should rebuke these folks because they're calling you good. They're calling you God. And he was like, if they don't do it, the rocks will. Like he never rebukes anyone that rejoices and celebrates him as God. And so in that, Jesus is actually saying, yes, I am good. Yes, I am God.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that because the context that the story comes in is very important, that somebody was trying to get out of following him correctly. Yet they were trying to butter him up a little bit. And Jesus is challenging their understanding of good. Yeah. Because goodness, as we already said, is based on kind of others. You know what I mean? It's referential. And so like it's based on context, and it's based on really your proximity to something.
Yeah. Because no one is good. This statement of no one is good is really about like no one is good in and of themselves. No one is inherently good. No, there's not even one. Like there's no one who does good or who is good. And for the Christian belief, it's like, well, apart from God, like we understand as saved and being sanctified believers, God sees us through the cross. And so he sees Christ's righteousness when he looks at us. Like it's been imputed to us. But we have to like completely rewind the clock a little bit on that, because the people who were looking at Jesus, who were hearing him say this, it meant something different when he was saying it. For us, it's like, well, wait a minute. God calls me good. Like God looks at me and he sees because of Jesus.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And like,
that's good.
So that's why it's so hard for us to go back to that and say, well, why was that such an issue for them to be like, good teacher? And he's like, hold the phone. Yeah. Nobody here is good in and of themselves. Yeah. Not even one person here. And like, if you think about this goal that people often have of being a good person.
Yeah. Because that's what the whole question is. Yeah. Why do bad things happen to good people?
It's why it's really impossible to be a good person. And Jesus defined that for us when he answered that question. Nobody is good. He kind of gave us the out, but yet we still have this idea based on something else that we'll get into here at the end. Like, like being a good person truly is impossible. Because like really you ask the question, like, well, good to whom? Yeah. Good for what?
Good for nothing.
Good for what? Good in what way? Like how do you define that goodness? And it boils down to, like you said, that relative idea of what is good. And like, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, because I'm thinking about that whole concept, and it takes me a little bit to the thought of creation, and like, because there are two schools of thought that people were created good, and that there's a fallenness that has entered into humanity, and then there's another understanding that people are wretched, and that they need God in order to bring about any goodness in them. And I know how they sound similar, but there's a different starting point.
Yeah, here it's nuanced. Yeah.
But then there's also the thought of that's one thought that came to mind. The other thought was thinking of being a good person. Every one of you listening or watching who believe you're a good person, somebody out there doesn't like you, rightfully, because you did something wrong to them.
You cut them off in traffic.
You flipped them the bird.
You sneezed.
You yelled in their face.
You rolled your eyes.
You plain and cussed them out. Like, you did something. You cheated somebody. You lied. You backstabbed. You did something, right? And even though at the end of the day you justify it and you say, well, I had a right to do that, or I only did that because X, Y, Z.
Or I made up for it by doing something good.
Yes, or I apologize, so therefore I am now a good person. Like, somebody is still mad at you for something you did. And they're not mad at you for no reason. And so then when you think about being a good person, that question of good to whom?
To whom?
Like,
in whose eyes?
In what way?
Yeah.
And how do you define that? It kind of sets us up on this slippery slope where we're forced to then backtrack and be like, okay, in order to define a goodness, where's that base level?
Yeah.
Where's the standard? Because in order to define whether or not I'm good, I've got to pick a standard. And only in like the Christian worldview, well, there's a couple other worldviews that believe in an all powerful, what we call the OOG God, right?
The
OOG, which is omniscient, omnipresent, good God, all powerful, all knowing, good God. But that's the only way that we can have a standard of goodness.
Yeah. Outside of a person, like something that establishes what good should be.
Yes, because then otherwise it's subjective and it continues to fluctuate based on whatever mood you're in.
Or it's based on you. And that's one thing I think I can say I've noticed in that pursuit of being a good person is eventually, because of all of these things that we are working against in the world, all of these unseen forces that we have around us, eventually that standard of goodness has to be based on the individual. Like in that worldview, at a certain point, it is no longer about really even morality. It ends up being based on emotionality. It ends up being based on, the flavor of the week, how I'm feeling and what things are working in my favor and whether the universe is smiling on me or not. It boils down to the individual, like the what is it? It's like the independent God, like this me God.
It's relative truth. It's relative moralism.
Yeah. Or what is it? Moralistic therapeutic deism.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of humanistic movements or worldviews that are very based on me and how I feel, and what is good based on me, still isn't based on me, because I still have to look at the community and be like, okay, is my standard in agreement with the community that I have now elevated their standard to be the standard? Because if I deviate from my community that I identify from, then now I'm not good anymore.
Yeah.
And so
according to that community,
you're still looking outside of yourself for a standard, even though you're saying that, oh, it's my point of view that makes me good. And so, yeah, it's just interesting, because we have to get back to a true standard in order to understand the question of what is good, of why bad things happen to good people. You have to define, where does goodness come from?
Yeah.
And so as believers in Christ, like, we have an answer for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
do you want to know what it is?
This sounds like one of those weird Subway pitches. Like somebody's like, do you want to know the answer to life?
Take the stress test. No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway, if you know, you know. But the truth is, like, no one can be good in and of themselves unless there's always a caveat. That's what I love about the kingdom. There's a kingdom caveat to everything.
Ooh.
That would be a cool band name.
Or if I start a dental service.
Okay.
Kingdom caveat.
Unless they originated and established what good should be in all situations, for all of time, in all cultures, to all people. Unless there was some being that established that goodness from themselves, independent of anything else, there's no one that is good.
That's right.
But we know that there's only one who's ever done that. And the Christian belief is that God did that. God did that.
He done did
and
that though.
Yeah, because only a God who is set apart from creation, a non-created being. God wasn't created. And some people would even argue philosophically God doesn't exist because he always has been. Things come into existence. God never came into existence. But only a God who is able to be that can establish a standard of goodness within the creation that they create.
That's good, yeah. And I love that God didn't establish as in like there was no goodness. And he's like, okay, I'm going to make this thing good.
Right.
Like God just is good. And so from creating what he created was good.
And he said it. The Bible says it over and over. In those first 2 chapters, we have everything God made. God saw that it was good. God saw that it was good. And it's not just, this is crazy how I read things. It's not just that God saw it. Like he like visually saw it. You know, the saying we use, like, you better see to it that this gets done. God saw that it was good. Like he made sure that every single thing that he put his hand to create, that came from his mouth to create, was good.
And even like, not to get too nerdy, but like even going back to like he saw that it was good, like in its being, in its essence, in what he created.
Not that it good did things.
Yeah, not
good
that
did
it
things. Did I just say that?
It did not good did things. What did you say?
I did good English.
Did good.
Just now.
Yes, God didn't say that he saw that it did well. He saw that it did good things. Good did things. But he saw that it was based on how he created it, based on its purpose, based on its essence, based on all of the details and design. He saw that it was good.
Yeah.
In and not in and of itself, but in its perfect willed design.
Yeah. In its origin.
Yeah.
Like from its origins, it came from nothing but good. Therefore, it could be called nothing but good.
But good.
But good did. But the hard part about this is why, like, this is such a hard, I think, episode for us to like close down, because we have to land here. This is the place where you're gonna be like, why would they end this episode this way?
Because we're jerks. That's why.
Because we didn't have enough content. No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, how many chapters are there in the Bible? How many books are there in the Bible?
66.
About how good creation was.
I failed that one. 2. And then there's...
No, peace out.
Oh, then there's one about how good creation in its perfected form will be.
Yes, which is great to look forward to. But this is the hard part for Christians, because again, we are like New Testament. Most of you watching this in America, at least, like we come from a completely different context than the rest of the world and than the rest of history. And so we come to it saying, okay, well, we know like Jesus is restoring all things. Like this is the world we live in. Do we say it like that? We have the Holy Spirit. Like we're watching God restore creation, and like one day the fulfillment of all things, and the groom will come and claim his bride. Like we know this story, but we have to again rewind back to those first 2 chapters.
Yeah.
And we have to understand that, okay, the first 2 chapters tell us that everything was good. And it was so good. Like God was walking with his people, and he gave them like commands. And he was like, you're going to go out there and make this world the way I want it to be. It's going to be filled with little me everywhere, little images of me. And it's going to be good.
You're cracking me up, right?
So God talks. He's like, man, it's going to be so good. Look, Adam, you're going to take that wife of yours. You're going to make things good.
All right. Easy. We got
anyway. But we have 2 chapters that tell us that. And then everything falls to pieces.
Then everything changes.
But I think it's an amazing testament to 2 of them, actually, to show us how much God was willing to go through in 66 books to get us back to that goodness. We only have 2 chapters that actually tell us how good everything was.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even do, like, we can't even fathom it, because we have no idea what ultimate goodness and perfection looks like. Yeah. But the fact that the rest of the whole story is telling us what God wanted to do to bring us back to that tells us it had to be a really good.
Yeah, that's good. And also, I think, though we can't fathom it, though we struggle to understand true goodness in its ultimate form, one, Jesus demonstrated that to us. We see Jesus demonstrating a selfless love and living out that love perfectly, which demonstrated goodness in all shapes, or all ways, shapes, and forms. And scripture testifies that nobody's seen God, but Jesus is the exact likeness. Like we get to see in Jesus what goodness was and what goodness is perfected. But also the fact that somewhere inside of you see something that's unjust, or you see something broken, or you see someone hurting, and you say, that's wrong.
That shouldn't be happening.
Like the fact that something in you says, this is bad and it should not be that way, tells us that there has to be something good that we know innately as human beings that there should be. And there is no should without the existence of something that is. And so like there should be good, and I'm not seeing it. I'm upset about that because deep down I know that there is good.
Yeah, because every created being, every created human being understands that. Like there's something in us that does draw us deeper, that says, okay, wait a second. There's something bigger. Like we have those like philosophical conversations, something bigger than us, and cultures have understood it for so many generations. Yeah. But again, even that is proof that there's an echo of something inside of us.
Good word, yeah.
That says there's goodness that's missing.
Yes.
And how do we get back to that? And so I love how like those friends that I have who have asked this question, like, well, if God is so good and Jesus is so great, then why does this bad stuff happen in his world? Like, why is he allowing this bad stuff to happen? And I think that's so amazing. And I commend my friends who ask those questions, those hard questions, because I'm like, well, that to me says that something's working in your spirit. Something is happening in you, that cry for justice to be satisfied is there. And I think that's a great place to be. So even if you're someone who doesn't believe in God, who doesn't follow Jesus, even acknowledging that there is something wrong with injustice is a great place to start with the conversation. And that's why we kind of wanted to land here with, there is a good that we are meant to experience, and that it was so incredibly good, not just visually, not just, to satisfy all of our senses, but relationally good, and economically good, and vocationally good. Like in the garden, there was an understanding that this would become a civilization, not just this, these hippies living in a garden, but this would become civilization, and that things like pyramids and buildings and technology, all of that was still meant to happen in the context of perfection. But something shifted that. And we're
going to talk about it.
We're going to talk about it.
You kind of jumping the gun.
I'm sorry, I'm just saying.
Easy.
I get excited about it. But so next week we are talking about like natural law and causality and why bad things happen in the first place.
So if you have got anything from this, please share this. Please let somebody know about this series that we're going through. We hope that you will comment. We hope that you'll join in the conversation, and that we can hear more about your understanding of how God is working in the bad, through the bad, and in the good. So also, don't forget, giveaway. Go back to the beginning and listen to it.
Yes, and Inner Circle. Don't forget about that either. We haven't forgotten about the Inner Circle. They're
Never
amazing. And you should join them.
Do it.
Like you should. You just do it. Just join it. It's fine. There's links. You can join. But this has been the NixMyth Podcast. We hope you've gotten. No, sorry. Scratch that. Pause. Rewind. This has been the NixMyth Podcast. We hope this episode has connected you
to living truth.
Be blessed.